Greetings, friends. We are on the first day of the waxing crescent, one day away from the new moon. We have completed our 13th Scrum cycle, and our mission was threefold. Create a scene on my website, which exists currently at the link below, which held the fine lines of a detailed drawing, and my interest was to, with the drawing, I recognized that there's a certain point of chaos that my drawings come into, in which when it's a big piece, I'll abandon the piece because it feels like too much, overwhelming. So I wanted to work on this larger piece and bring its lines into a state of completion. I would say this piece is not complete. That being said, I have refined the lines to a form of clarity that is new for me. It is more complete than any other drawing of this size I've ever tackled. There's a lot of complexity happening inside of it, and I would say my drawing process often feels like I get a lot of lines down, and then I start to make forms out of them. Or maybe I'll start with a core image and then develop it to a point where it changes a lot. But the idea is that I'm reaching my hands into chaos and I'm pulling form from it and crystallizing form from the abstraction. It's very much like having a microscope and adjusting the focus until the objects in the lens become clear. That's what drawing feels like for me. So this piece, I would say it's not fully complete, but I am happy with how far I've brought it. And I would say this scrum, though I didn't fully execute to the degree that I set out for, it still feels like a success to me. It still feels like a major step in evolution. The second part of my process was to work every day to create, work every day with an acoustic guitar and my voice. Over my years of playing, I've written a lot of songs and I've learned a lot of covers, and I've found that a lot of these covers, for example, are, I bring to a point where I understood the basics and I could flow with the music, but I never understood the fullness of the song and had the ability to execute it in its completeness. Or maybe I did, but those moments were fleeting. So I wanted to go back into a lot of these covers that I'd learned in the past and really bring them flush, bring them to a point where I could confidently play them and no longer need to focus my attention upon what am I doing on the guitar, what are the lyrics, what is the pitch, what are the melody lines, and I can, when I know how to play them, my conscious mind doesn't need to think about these things. It can go on autopilot, and then it frees me to focus on the layer beneath that, which is, like the meaning of the piece. Like once I understand the lyrics in the guitar and the melody lines of my voice, then I can focus on the meaning or playing it well, whatever that means, right? Same goes with a lot of the songs that I've written. Through the years, I've written a lot, and I wanted to learn how to play the songs that I've written. A lot of my writing, my process happens as a producer. So I'm recording, and I'm not necessarily recalling, like, okay, what chords did I use there? Or how did I do that thing? And so a lot of my process this past cycle was to uncover how and rediscover a lot of these pieces that either I've written and recorded, produced, and then would deconstruct from a produced track, or some of them came as like full songs that came through a free flows, improvisatory state. So I would write out what the words are that I was saying and what the chords were, and learn how to replicate and emanate again that same signal and sound. And a lot of these things, when they come from an improvisatory state, happen in a very magical way, and my process this week was about deconstructing the magic so that I could replicate it. And fundamentally, I wanted to create a confident set list of songs that I can pick up and play whenever I want to. My goal was to get 30 minutes of music in, and I got that. I still have songs in my subconscious repertoire that I would like to bring to my conscious domain. I would say that my conscious domain, I'm referring to this video compilation of songs that I can play right now in the confident set list. And I would say round one of this exercise is to retrieve all of the pieces from the subconscious that I find called to. And then round two, and so I'm partially there. I'm about 30 minutes in, and I would say I have another 5 songs or so. And then round two would be to learn how to play it all well, and learn how to play it all straight through, learn, be totally off book with the lyrics, with the song formations, in a way where I can just play the whole set as if it's a single song and do it confidently and do it better than I'd initially even done it, So right now I have a new foundation to stand upon. I have clearly articulated, okay, these are the songs of my acoustic set list, and this is where I'm at with them. This is the best that I could play them now. And so it feels like I have a foundation to stand upon and a place to grow from. What I also noticed in this process was, a lot of the songs, particularly when I'm producing, for example, I'll get into these vocal states where I'm able to hit really high notes that, and when I say really high, it's all relative, but for my vocal range, I'm able to access really high notes, and I find it's a really difficult thing for me to get back in that state when I'm trying. And one thing I'm learning about my vocals in general is it's all about placement when it comes to hitting high in that range. In order to hit high in my range, it's important that I'm not straining and reaching for it. And there's just some days that it's easy to get up there, and some days where it's a lot more difficult to get up there. So I want to just continue to study how to be more scientific about the process of getting up there, so I know how to approach these higher tones and can feel confident that I'll be able to reach them. And I feel like that is a process that I can deconstruct, and I would say I still don't have it deconstructed. I still don't understand, what I can do, perhaps what kind of warm-ups I can do to enter those registers. But I'm observing it, I'm studying it, I'm looking at it. Some of the songs that I recorded that had those higher registers, I would be using my falsetto or head voice in places where my initial recordings would be in a chest or a mixed voice. So I kind of would find a way to make it work. And I think ultimately with the confident set list, I want to find a way to make the whole thing work every time, where I don't need to be at an unusual state of being to access the notes that I want to access, which also just means identifying, okay, what are the notes that are higher to hit, and how can I transition through head and chest voice, or really dial in my mixed voice so that I understand how to do that every time. The third part of my Scrum cycle was to write a scene and bring it into completion. And I wrote a lot. I selected 2 written scenes that I had dialed in during this time period to be included upon the site with the video and with the visual piece. These scenes, I would say, one of them really contained a fingerprint of my now, meaning and it came from one day that I went to the forest to go play the song. And it was actually the day that I spent definitely the most time on a single song, because it was difficult for me to get it. And it was a pretty simple strumming pattern, but it was different than a lot of the other strumming patterns I work with. So it took a lot more time to really get it integrated and to feel myself. And I also brought a different level of attention, which was like, I want to play this correct, meaning I'm on beat the whole time, meaning there's not places in the song I'm fudging and making it work through, which in previous iterations of my acoustic workings with the song, when I felt like I've got it, I don't think I was as intent upon that layer of detail. Certain songs I also would, do an easier version for me to play and sing at the same time. But on this day that I went to the forest, I really sat with like, okay, I want to dial in the rhythm. I don't want to play this thing where I feel like I'm going to get it fully on beat the whole time. And all the lyrics correct. So I did that. I had an experience of getting frustrated and recognizing that it's like, the frustration that I feel right now is very much the point in which in past times I would jump ship. And it's the same kind of frustration I would feel when I was doing a drawing and it would get so crazy and maybe I would abandon the piece. Or I would, instead of refining the lines more so, I would just flip it to digital and just start fucking it in a totally different way, rather than bringing all of those forms into their fruition. So this writing came from a place of, it's basically a writing where Asaya goes to Saya's tower, which at the beginning of my last EP, the story of Saya is basically the story of a king who could not harness the energy of his magic to feed the kingdom, and so the whole kingdom dies. And it's kind of the epitome of what would happen to me if I did not share my work with the world, right? It's like, I know there's something inside. It's that is nourishment for the world, and it's my job to refine it and deliver it. And Saya is like the epitome of the one who dies with the story unspoken, the great tragedy of a story never told. So Asaya is essentially his reincarnation, and Asaya goes to the tower where Saya used to dwell and a kingdom had created and died around. And he goes to the place which held the crack in this tower's foundation and Saya's foundation, my creative foundation. And he played into that crack. He played into the frustration of not fully being able to get it, but sat with it to a point where he was able to play it on beat. And this is symbolic or a metaphor of, like going to the place that I've never had the patience to go before. Going to the place where I've let myself go, or I've broken the relationship with what I was doing, integrity, in times before. And addressing that directly, facing the demon, and evolving through, the direct confrontation and communion with it. Like the weakness in my musical awareness, focusing on that, bringing the integrity of the structure up from the foundation. So this written scene held, it was kind of like a parable that I wrote, in which I would say is the fundamental idea of what I was doing in this cycle. And so that scene to me is a success. I also included a scene of Asaya arriving into the world and his reincarnation after Saya's death into a new form. And that just felt like it was inspired. I felt called to approach an older writing, tweak it, modify it to make it digestible, and bring it into the space. So that's the threefold Scrum cycle that I focused upon this endeavor, or this past moon cycle, from full to new, and that's the result. The next journey that I'm going on is one with new moon's coming up in 2 weeks, less than 2 weeks now. I think maybe 2 weeks. Sleeping. It's been quite a weekend, to say the least. Lots of shenanigans. In 2 weeks, I will have a new track mastered and uploaded to Spotify. It's going to be a song that its current name is Elias Vocal. It is already produced and created, so my endeavor is to mix and master it. I will do this in this first week and get it up. Takes some time to process once it's uploaded. Once I've done my part, it takes some time to process through Spotify, but I want it to be ready for release and sharing on the full moon. So that will be the primary focus of my current Scrum. I have the call to keep it open. I've got another friend visiting this week on the second half of this cycle, and we're going to be creating together. I have a sense that setting that as the objective is good for now, and I'm sure I'll be creating a lot more. I'm going to continue to work on this acoustic set list and evolve my foundation. I would like to bring everything up from the subconscious. These songs that I haven't brought up yet that do want to be a part of it. But I'm not going to create any parameters or like official targets on that. I'm just going to work with that naturally and see what happens. I also feel like a big thing that I'm doing right now, that I've been doing all day, or not all day, just a few hours, but I've been doing some major overhaul in my production system, where I've been just rearranging the file management of a lot of stuff. I've been working with hard drives over there that are just holding the backup of everything that I have, so that I can clear my computer, so that I can clean out. Like, my Ableton library is very chaotically arrayed, as many are, and I'm just cleaning it out to really get it cleansed and purified, so I know where things are and they are where I want them, and I have a clear production workflow for the creation, conception, mixing, and mastering processes. So I feel like I've made really great headway today on dialing that in, and I'll continue to work with it as I'm doing this mixing and mastering process. But I won't bore you with the details on that for now. But it feels like ultimately I'm designing a spaceship, which is a creative production. I'm establishing myself within the rhythm of going from a clear canvas, to having a full product. And a product is a mixed, mastered song with a visual piece, with writing, and kind of entering, continuing to move with what is the most effective process. How do we evolve the process so that we can go to 0 to 100, and it's clear what it means to be at 100. And we're releasing the work to the world in a consistent rhythmic manner, so each full moon. And I'm continually refining and evolving the process from which I do these journeys. So that's where I'm at. That's where I was. This is where I'm going. I hope life is beautiful, and regardless of what is going on, yes, there's always going to be a lot of happening, a lot of shift, a lot of chaos, as we are in this world is made up of it. But regardless of what goes down in life, the reason that I continue to arrive here and do this reflection is to orient to that which is, most meaningful, most pleasurable, most desirable in my life, which is the embodiment of my and this world's creative potential. So, may the force be with you on the way. Ciao, motherfuckers.